What's up, guys? This is Ian here, coach of your Ladner Lanturn, bringing you guys our NCL Season 1 recap, the recap of our Season 1 of the Nimbasa City League. This was quite the successful season. We managed to make it all the way to the finals, and I won't spoil the outcome of that just yet. If you haven't seen the finals match, then I suggest you go watch it. I will be discussing all of our matches throughout the season, so if you haven't seen some of the matches, then you should probably go watch the matches to see what happened before I talk about them later on in the video. Now, I've done a few season recaps before, so we're going to start off in formulaic fashion, and we'll start talking about our draft and where we went on from there. So let's start off by talking about the draft. I came into this drafting, I only wanted to draft things that I hadn't used before, and I was successful with that, and it was my first time using any of these Pokemon, and we'll sort of see that when I go through my all-time kill leaderboard, which is a new addition to my season recaps because I only built the dock three-ish weeks ago, I think. So, first up, we grabbed Celesteela. We sniped my friend Monster, or Austin, on the Celesteela, and he ended up taking Kyurem Black anyways. Celesteela was a very pivotal Pokemon for this team. It was a glue Pokemon. It filled so many different roles defensively and offensively, and just a fantastic Steel type. If I allowed franchising, which I don't, Season 2 there will be no franchising whatsoever, and the draft order will be randomized, so there's maybe no hope that I even get Celesteela again. I may draft it again, to be completely honest with you. This thing was an absolute beast, and I enjoyed using it every second. I enjoyed using this thing. Yeah, fantastically diverse Pokemon, and I ended up grabbing... I only grabbed like one sweep with it, but it ended up putting a lot of work in our semifinal match. Ended up picking up 3 kills, and at the end of the season, Celesteela was actually the team leader in kills, as well as showing up to every single match that we played. We did have one forfeit win in week 4 against Eco before, sorry, that was the week that Eco left the league actually, so, which I'll also talk about in our when I go through. I was actually considering doing just a season recap just for the Ladner Lanturn and a season recap for the entire league in general, but I decided the entire league in general, I didn't have all the insight that I would want for the entire league in general. I would have to have like every single person come on, and that's not really feasible, especially because I don't know how to edit videos, so that would kind of suck. In trying to get someone like Muddy on here who's got a really whack time zone compared to everybody else. So next up we grabbed Azumarill, which wasn't necessarily threatened. I think it was kind of an early Azumarill pick, but it was a fairy type and a water type, and I wanted to try it quite a bit. It had been on my list for a while, especially a top tier water fairy type like Azumarill. I thought that it was kind of worth the round 2 pick for me. Azu proved to be very useful. I used it pretty well mid-season, and early season and late season it sort of functioned more of one and done kind of Pokemon, where it just would kill one thing and then that was kind of its role. I did use it in a few different ways. I ran a banded set, a few times, including in the finals. I ran a banded set. I ran a Z Belly Drum set a few times as well, and I ran a Perish Trapping set a few times as well. So that was kind of Azu's main roles, were those 3. Next up was Hydreigon. Hydreigon was a decent value pick for me. I was trying to get Goodra in here, and I'm really glad that I got Hydreigon instead. It was a really good speed tier, filled with dark Pokemon that I basically wouldn't have had otherwise, I don't think. Yeah, I didn't draft another dark type, so... Oh god, excuse me. That was kind of Hydreigon's role. It functioned really well as an offensive threat this season. I actually brought a few Life Orb Roost sets, which I think was really cool. The fact that it gets Roost now with Life Orb is really neat to me. I believe I brought a few Defog sets as well because it got Defog. It was kind of really good utility mon for a lot of purposes, and then at the same time a really good offensive mon. It ended up being near the top of the team in kills as well, and I think that it was basically a really huge threat to everyone that came against it. Then I picked Donphan, which was supposed to be more removal plus hazard setting, and Donphan proved to be an absolute monster. I think Donphan was actually second or third on the team in kills by the end of the season, and it showed up to a lot of matches just as a defensive Pokemon. Definitely would draft Donphan. Oh, I would honestly any mon in this team I would draft again, except for a few that I'll talk about later. But the early rounds, just I would totally draft these again. Donphan, again, another really good utility mon. Had some decent coverage options that I used throughout the season. I didn't change up the sets too much. I didn't run any Z Donphan shenanigans. Excuse me. But I did end up running some offensive sets, so that was that. Darmanitan, again, massive wall breaker, just a massive threat. I sort of was going with a Volt Turn, and I only really had 2 Volt Turners in Hydra and Darmanitan up to this point, but Darm was just absolutely huge for the team, pivoting-wise, and while it didn't end up getting that many kills, it ended up proving its worth to me throughout the season. I ran a few different sets. I actually had the opportunity to run an Adamant Choice Band set at the end, in the semifinal match, and that set was like, there's no switching to an Adamant Choice Banded Darmanitan's Flare Blade. It's like, I actually just can't think of one. Everything gets absolutely demolished by it. It was mostly run Choice Scarf, to be completely honest, with most of the same moves. Ended up bringing one funky set with Sub Slackberry, Belly Drum, Fire Punch, and Earthquake. I was pretty proud of that set, but it was Muddy's idea, really, and I used it against him, so that was pretty funny. Then I grabbed Rotom-Mow, which proved, to me at least, to be a very good Gloomon as well, like Celesteela. It filled a few roles for me. In one of the games, it was a Xurkitree Sponge, and it functioned really well as a very good special defense wall. A few times I ran like a Specs or a Scarf on it. In my match against TJ, it ended up tricking a Specs onto Suicune, which let me progress through that match instead of just outright losing to Suicune. Rotom-Mow was pretty clutch in my mind. I had nominated it for... actually, maybe I should bring up my own nominations and sort of talk about that as well. For 7th Man Award, which I'll get into a little bit later. We'll talk about my nominations and stuff like that. I'm not going to show the actual document, but I've brought it up on my other monitor so that I can talk about my my nominations and sort of where I went through from there, because I gave myself more nominations than the other coaches, just to sort of fill in the gaps, especially for awards that I felt were lacking in candidates already. So that was kind of that. Yeah, Rotom-Mow, again, I nominated it for 7th Man Award. Again, I'll get into the awards. That'll be at the end. We'll talk about awards, the awards for the whole season. So this is how I'm kind of like tying in the entire season with just my own season recap. Sorry, I'm just going to drink some water because this is going to be a long video. So next up, we grabbed Uxie. Steal of a pick in Uxie in round 7, in my opinion. Uxie functioned really well as a utility mon on this team. I didn't bring it offensively at all. It functioned primarily as a defensive wall just because I sort of lacked them. And I wanted Celesteela to fill an offensive role sometimes where Uxie needed to take the defensive burden that week. I ran a few screen sets, which I learned from my buddy TJ, and those proved to be actually fairly successful, to be honest. So that was pretty good. Lots of rock sets, a few foul play shenanigans. Excuse me. It ended up tanking quite a bit. Excuse me. For the team, and just did it put in work. Honestly, in my opinion, it put in a lot of work for the team. Then I drafted Galvantula and traded it for Ribombee to Mortal. This wasn't super successful. I kind of wanted webs for the team, but my team ended up not having to function around webs basically ever. I brought it with webs twice the entire season. Once was in the finals, and once was in week 3 against Mortal. In week 3, I didn't end up clicking it, and I clicked it in the finals, and they got rapid spun away right away. So Ribombee actually felt fairly useless to me this entire season. Maybe I just wasn't using it properly, or maybe it just didn't fit on the team. I think because I already had a Fairy type and you'll see that I had a better bug type later, that it just wasn't for me. Same thing with Galvantula. Galvantula wouldn't have really fit the team either, because I already had an electric type in Rotom-Mow, and I would have had a better bug type that, again, we'll see. Actually, it might be in the next round. Yeah, it's in the next round. So I ended up grabbing Mega Beedrill, which was, what a mon, dude. Mega Beedrill is absolutely amazing. My favorite part about playing Draft League and my favorite part about competitive Pokemon is Volturn, and Mega Beedrill has the strongest U-turn in the entire game. It just makes me so happy to see a U-turn come off, especially in our semifinals match. We just clicked U-turn turn 1 and destroyed an Alolan Executor with that hit. Mega Beedrill was super clutch. I ended up sniping Mega Beedrill from Jed. I had planned on taking Mega Beedrill that round already, but it forced him into taking Mega Pidgeot instead, which I think actually benefited his team a little bit more than Mega Beedrill would have. Since he already had Salazzle as an offensive poison, I don't think that he necessarily needed Mega Beedrill. And Mega Beedrill put in so much work this season for my team. It managed to pick up a 6-0 sweep against Nacho after getting a Fell Stinger off and just bodying his entire team. And that was kind of that. Then we picked Tauros, which never saw the light of day, and ended up getting dropped for Girder, which we'll talk about later in the transactions. Again, Girder wasn't super useful either. And then last but not least, we picked Lycanroc-Dusk, which showed up to a few matches for us, wasn't super successful, and then ended up getting traded, which we'll talk about in the transactions, which I will just talk about next, to be honest with you. So yeah, do I have transactions open? I guess I could just open all of the sheets anyways. Here's the draft, all laid out nicely with all of the rounds and stuff. So where was Mega Beedrill? Yeah, so Jed ended up picking Mega Pidgeot the same round anyways. And Lycanroc-Dusk last round seemed to be a standout for me, to be honest. Out of all these picks, Lycanroc-Dusk sort of seemed to take the cake for me in round 11, but that's that. So we'll talk about transactions really quickly here. We ended up trading Galvantula for Rabombi. Not a huge deal in the end. Jed dropped Excadrill for Scizor, which was a really good move on his part. His Excadrill was like 0-3 to start the season. It was completely useless without Sand, and Scizor ended up being a real boon for him. CM took over for Eco in week 5, and he made some drops. Machamp and Gyarados turned out to be really good. I think he brought Tangela like once, even though it could have functioned really well on his team. Dropping Alolan Sandslash I think was a huge mistake for him, actually, even though Machamp did put in some work. I think Alolan Sandslash functioned really, really well on that team, and he already had Alolan Ninetales, so it just sort of made sense to keep the Hail Core together for me. We ended up dropping Tauros for Girder, and Girder did dick all. I think it came to 3 games. Well, we'll talk about that in the kill leaders. Snorlax for Porygon for Cade. That trade really didn't matter in the grand scheme of things. I think both of them functioned in the same role, and he didn't really end up bringing Snorlax or P2 very often. Pangoro for Cryogonal. I'm not sold on this one. I'm not entirely sure that it ended up making that big of a difference for Jed's team. Regis for Kecleon I think was a better trade for him, although he didn't really get to use Regis to its full potential. I don't even know if he brought it to any games, to be completely honest. Austin dropping Kyurem Black for Salamence was pretty big for Austin, to be honest, because he wasn't a huge fan of Kyurem Black. I'm not the biggest fan of Kyurem Black. I'm sort of starting to grow on it as I picked it up in LET. I wasn't a very big fan of it in UPBA. I ended up using it relatively well in UPBA Season 1 on our championship roster, but it sort of felt clunky for me. And then Daniel and his Mono Dragon squad ended up dropping Latias for Kyurem Black, obviously because it was there, and who's not going to take that trade, to be honest with you. I think it was a really good move on Daniel's part, and Kyurem Black ended up actually doing quite a bit of work for him, especially because he made the playoffs, so that helped. And then Cade ended up dropping a Selgor and a Nihilego for 2 speed boosters in Yanmega and Scolipede. I personally don't think they made that large of an impact on his team. I think Scolipede made a pretty big impact on his team, considering Nihilego basically wasn't doing anything. And he ended up losing a game because of a Selgor's Final Gambit mechanic. Or the mechanic of Final Gambit is that his Selgor died first because it kills itself and then deals the damage. And so I think he was pretty mad about that and ended up picking up Yanmega. Yanmega didn't really do anything. He brought it against me in the finals and switched it on a Dark Pulse and then switched out again. It didn't do anything in that game. And then last but not least, we ended up trading Lycanroc-Dusk to Austin for Espeon, which I think was... it's actually really hard for me to tell if it was beneficial or not to the team, because I think in the end, Lycanroc-Dusk could have been really good on our championship squad, like if we were to emulate the end of the season again. But Espeon ended up filling a really good role as a especially offensive threat for the team. I actually brought Espeon to 4 games out of 7 that I could have had it for. So that's actually a reasonable amount, and I was kind of stoked that that I could pull that trade off. Let's take a look at the standings for the season. It's kind of cool. So Matt ended up topping the entire league with the best record and the best differential. He beat me out by 4 differential and conference win. He had the conference win tiebreaker. So he actually had these last 3 tiebreakers against me anyways. The only way I would have been able to leapfrog him was to get a win. We ended up winning the division, really tight division. Obviously, you can see we were only 1 win up on both Magic and Cade, and our entire division made playoffs. We were the only division that had every single person make playoffs. The Viridian division, actually, unfortunately, for TJ and Jed, they both had fantastic seasons as well, in my opinion, but neither of them were able to make playoffs just because of how competitive the Kanto Conference was this season. In the Johto Conference, it was not very competitive, if you ask me. Unfortunately, Austin had some struggles with his team, I think. I actually thought that his team was really good, but he struggled pretty heavily with it. He's improved a lot as a battler since we started drafting for the league, and so I'm anticipating that he's going to come back with a vengeance in Season 2. Mortal, unfortunately, will not be joining us for Season 2, but he had basically given up after I beat him in Week 3, I think. He ended up just reusing the same sets over and over again. Daniel somehow made playoffs with a 2-10 record. I don't even know what to say. He was not taking this league seriously whatsoever. He ran Mono Dragon and just went from there. CM kind of struggled, to be honest, after picking up the team. He won like 2 games, I think. Ended up making playoffs, which was really good for him. But that was kind of that. And Nacho played really well after picking up Blade's team. Blade unfortunately left the league because of some personal conflict with myself and actually quite a few of the other coaches within the league and some spectators. And it's fine. We're over it now. I'm not gonna go into more detail on that. We're over it. That happened like 3 months ago now. And that's sort of where we're at with that. And unfortunately, Eco started his PhD exams, and he really didn't have the time to dedicate to being able to take the NCL as seriously as he wanted to, so he ended up leaving, and CM was very kind to pick up the team. CM will not be returning for Season 2, although I really do appreciate, if you're watching this CM at any point, I really do appreciate you picking up the team. I think that was really cool of you. TJ will also not be joining us for Season 2. He's not really motivated with Pokemon at all right now, based on what he told me today. I battled him in LET today, and he wasn't super thrilled about Pokemon in general. Yeah, so it's kind of neat to see the sort of the disparity between Johto and Kanto at the end of things. Everyone in Kanto had a winning record and had a positive differential, and the only person with an even record in the Johto Conference was Nacho, and he still had a negative differential. So just goes to show how poorly the randomizer worked in the league's favor, in my opinion, and it actually sort of toned down the competition of playoffs, which is not necessarily what I wanted out of it, but it just sort of happened. Yeah, that was that. In terms of tiering, this is what our tier list looked like. Everything was sort of, nice and clean. Actually, I really love how clean I make documents, but there's a ton of tiering changes for Season 2. For any coaches that are participating in Season 2 watching this, you can see all of the tiering changes that I made are in the Season 2 changes channel in the in the league Discord server. Otherwise, very shortly, as soon as I have all of the team names and logos, I will be able to release the Season 2 document for everyone to be able to start making a draft plan for themselves. So have no fear, that's coming. But there were a few very obvious ones. I had like Masquerain in Tier 3, even though it's normally a Tier 5 Pokemon. That's moved down and things like that. And I think the biggest mistake was leaving Mega Sharpedo in Mega Tier 2, excuse me, with the Mega rules that I implemented. You probably can't see all these rules. Yeah, they're kind of cut off on the ends. But basically, sort of our unique rule for the league is that you did not have to Mega turn 1, which ended up making Mega Sharpedo and Mega Sableye and Mega Diancie really high priority picks. A few of these didn't really matter about not Mega Evolving right away. Like Mega Beedrill, you're always going to Mega Evolve right away. Mega Aggron, same thing. Mega Pidgeot, same thing. Mega Lopunny, Mega Kangaskhan, Mega Gardevoir, Mega Altaria, you're always going to do that sort of thing. I actually didn't realize until now that I misspelled Alakazam, which is spelled right in Tier 2, but not in the Mega. There you go, that's edited. So yeah, that was kind of that, and maybe I'll sort of maybe I will just sort of recap everyone's season really quickly here before we move on. So this was the schedule, and we only had a few 6-0s this season. So a lot of games ended up actually really close because of that. The first was Kate against Daniel in week 5, and then I don't think there was another one until I 6-0'd Muddy in week 11. Yeah, I 6-0'd Muddy in week 11, and then I 6-0'd Mortal in week 12, and then I 6-0'd Muddy in the semifinals. So that was kind of that. I actually think that shows how strong of a season I had, is that I got 3 perfect games basically out of 15, and we'll sort of just recap all of those now. No, that's not it. This is it. So we'll sort of recap all those now. So let's start with week 1. We ended up playing Matt and his Green Bay Glycopods. He had a super scary team the entire season. He was like, well, I mean, obviously he had a super scary team. He finished top in the entire league, and he ended up making the semifinals and getting knocked out by Cade in the semifinals in a very close match. Just like the regular season match ended up being, it was super close. It was very, very close. He brought some stuff that I wasn't expecting, I think. I'm pretty sure I didn't expect the Hitmontop or the Roserade. I can't exactly remember now. I'd have to rewatch my team builder, but we ended up bringing a neat team with Rindoberry, Donphan. I think I went all out with this one too much. Life Orb, Lycanroc-Dusk wasn't really necessary without, like, SD. Specs, Hydreigon was actually really good against this team, and then we ended up bringing a physically offensive Gracium Z Celesteela to be able to deal with Rotom. I ended up misplaying this game quite hard, actually, and he had just killed something with his Rotom, like Uxie or something, or Donphan. He'd killed something with something, and I got Celesteela in for free. Oh, you know what? I might have U-turned with Darmanitan. Yeah. And I brought Celesteela in on the Rotom because it was basically the only thing I had for it at the time. And it basically told him what was coming. I don't know if he knew exactly that it was Gracium Z Seed Bomb, but that was kind of where that was at for the game against Matt. Week 2 we took on Cade and we got absolutely bodied. I don't even know what to say about this game. Like, it really wasn't good. I felt like I was starting the season off very poorly, and obviously I was actually starting off the season very poorly, but I didn't play very well this game, I don't think at all. Avalugg proved to be a huge problem actually the entire season. It was probably the best Tier 5 out of any of the Tier 5s, and actually a super solid mon for his team. Decidueye was a horrific mon for his team. He ended up just not bringing it very much at all, which left him pretty much with no ground resists, to be completely honest. And I tried taking advantage of that with Donphan, I believe. And basically my strategy was to sort of get up screens and then get a soft switch off of Uxie into Belly Drum Azumarill, which ended up not turning out for me. I brought T-Spike's Mega Beedrill twice. I brought this in the finals against him too. I think it proved to be super useful against his team. T-Spikes looked fantastic against his team. He did have a soaker in Nihilego, and then he had a soaker in Scolipede at the end of the season, but his team was very weak to T-Spikes, in my opinion, and that's sort of where we were at that. Week 3, we took on Mortal, and we bodied him. Well, not really bodied him. It was about a 3-0. And I think somebody came in clutch. Donphan came in clutch? Donphan came in clutch. Donphan came in clutch. It stopped the Mimikyu and the Mega Kangaskhan together, and the Victini at some point, I want to say. We brought a Banded Celesteela, which was actually a really nifty set with Flame Charge, primarily there for the Galvantula. I think that was what the Flame Charge was there for. Another Felsinger Mega Beedrill that just didn't see the light of day, and I misspoke earlier. I didn't even bring Quiver Dance. Sorry, I didn't even bring Sticky Webs in this Rabombi, so I may have only brought Sticky Webs one time this entire season. I brought a setup Rabombi instead, which also didn't see the light of day. Paris Trap, Azu ended up breaking Slowbro, which is what it needed to do, and that was kind of that. Week 4, we were supposed to take on Eco, and he ended up forfeiting. I built the team anyways, and it's whatever, I'll just show the team off. This time I brought Sticky Webs, which is why I was thinking of that, but I didn't have that. And my strategy was to have webs up for Life Orb Darmanitan. He really didn't have the best removal options. His removal options were things like Superior and Latios, and Toucannon, and like Rapid Spin, Alolan Sandslash, which wasn't a feasible option. I was actually really confident going into this match, and he said he was really confident going into the match too, but I figured that I had a pretty good chance at things with Lycanium Z, Lycanroc-Dusk. This could absolutely demolish a few of the mons on his team. Assault Vested Celesteela took on the Latios extremely well. Bandit Azu took on a lot of the stuff on his team, and like a Rocky Helmet utility Uxie with Shadow Ball to take on the Cofagrigus. I thought that was really cool. I thought Taunt Darmanitan was some neat tech, and that was sort of where we were at with that. I guess I was running Taunt to sort of stop Defog. Superior was pretty much the only thing that would have been able to defog on me, just because it would have boosted speed. Week 5, we took on TJ and his Not Applicable. We actually ended up winning the game 4-0, I think. It was kind of a struggle, to be honest. His team of legendaries plus Mega Banette, the Puppet Master, but kind of a struggle at the end. His Suicune proved to be a problem, and then we ended up dealing with the Suicune, and then Zapdos proved to be a problem at the end. He was running dual screen Zapdos, and it was just super AIDS to deal with. Let's look at that team real quick here. So Mega Beedrill was pretty clutch in this game, and then Celesteela was clutch, and this Life Orb Roost Toxic Hydreigon proved to be absolutely amazing against his team. Same with Specs Trick Rotom proved to be really good too. And I ended up bringing Ground DMZ Lycanroc to break the Registeel, and I don't even think Lycanroc did anything that game. So that was quite unfortunate. Week 6, we took on Magic and bodied him, to be completely honest with you. Magic, in my opinion, didn't stand a chance after I got my screens up against him. He Magic Coated twice with Tentacruel, and Uxie managed to get up both screens and then get out on a U-turn against Mamoswine. He switched into Mamoswine for some reason against my Uxie, and no, I know what it is. I managed to knock off his Scarf and then U-turn out on him, and so then I got a Belly Drum up with Azumarill, and I picked up 3 kills with Azumarill, like basically like that. I thought this Girder set could have put in a lot of work. It ended up just sort of tanking a hit from Zygarde 10%, which was enough for Celesteela to be able to clean up that game. That was basically the gist of things there. Another Uxie utility game. Week 7, we took on Corona and the Seattle Raptors. This was a fairly clean game, in my opinion. I think it was another screens game for me, and Azu put in a lot of work, Mega B put in a lot of work, and Hydra might have done something. I can't exactly remember. I brought a Sticky Web set with Quiver Dance. It was a setup Sticky Web set for Rabombi, which ended up not doing anything. Donphan with Roar came in clutch, and Assault Vested Celesteela actually came in clutch as well. I brought a Throat Chop Mega Beedrill to take on a special Mega Altaria with Hyper Voice, which I thought was kind of neat, although it didn't really matter because he was just going to click Flamethrower against me anyways. I could have stopped the Hyper Voice and then gone into Hydra after I died, and Flash Cannon didn't guarantee the kill. Week 8, we took on Jed in the Adelaide Redrex. This was a really close game, and it came down to a really nifty Celesteela set. I brought an Akaberry Celesteela set with Earthquake, which I managed to lure him into a false sense of security with his Salazzle, and actually Salvus Lycanroc-Dusk put in quite a lot of work this game as well. But I managed to lure him to a false sense of security with his Salazzle, and then I managed to tank and overheat with my Akaberry and blow his Salazzle back. Belly Drum Azu could have put in a lot of work, but I realized too late that Serena was a huge cockblock to my Azumarill. I ran Scarf Will-O-Wisp Darmanitan. That's some really nifty tech. I totally forgot that I even did that. And another Life Orb Hydreigon, which actually did nothing, but it got a really crucial flinch on the Primarina, which proved to be huge because I had nothing for Primarina on my entire team. Rotom-Mow is essentially the only thing that I could have even had for Primarina, and I ended up just not using it because I thought that other things were better, but it could have been useful as a Zygarde wall and a Primarina wall, so I'm sad that I didn't bring that. I think things like Scizor and Aerodactyl was like the kill leader on his team at the end of the season. Mega Pidgeot was a threat to it, Cryogonal was a threat to it, so he had a lot of things that were a threat to Rotom-Mow. Week 9 we took on Austin and his Atlantis Raptors. This was not as close of a game, and I misplayed, and I actually probably should have 6-0'd this game. I misplayed with Uxie, and I fell for the banded Sucker Punch from Lycanroc-Dusk after we had traded. Espeon, Choice Specs Espeon blew back his team, and eventually I just punched enough holes into things like Mega Aggron that he could not beat me. The way that the rules are worded, if you put someone to sleep, if you put 2 Pokemon to sleep and break the sleep clause, then your opponent actually automatically gets a 6-0. But I decided to just bypass that because I wanted to just play the game out. A few things caught me off guard this game. Rotom-Mow put in a lot of work, but things like Swellow not showing up I thought was a huge, interesting. I thought it was an interesting thing. Arcanine too. What did we even bring against him? What did we bring? Oh, look at that. More tech on Uxie with the Yawn. Heavy Slam would have been better on the Celesteela set, but I didn't want to lose speed, so I ended up doing that. Assault Vested Donphin was actually pretty clutch too, and Banded Azumarill. Once again, Banded Azumarill. Week 10 we took on Nacho, and this was the Beedrill sweep. Beedrill absolutely murdered his team. The only thing I was really surprised about this game is that Magneton didn't come. Nacho or Blade, neither of them brought Magneton to any games the entire season, and I was really surprised that it didn't come just specifically to trap my Celesteela. I thought that was a big no-no. I thought that was like for sure coming, and I brought a Conberry Celesteela just for it. I could have brought a Shed Shell Celesteela as well, but I thought that Conberry would have done better, especially because I had Earthquake to beat it back. Assault Vested Azumarill was kind of a neat idea on my end. I didn't really see the benefits to it in the end. Especially defensive Rotom-Mow was really clutch this game. Scarfed Hydreigon, I don't know if it did anything. Yeah, it didn't. It missed a Draco and then it just got bopped by an Araquanid. Utility Uxie actually proved to be pretty decent, and getting a hit off on the Xurkitree with Psychic put it in range of me being able to kill it with Felstinger on Beedrill, and he had a very slow team, so I didn't have to run very much speed on the Beedrill, and I was able to run Adamant, which meant that I could blow his team back after I was +3. Week 11 we 6-0'd Muddy with our Sub-Select Berry Darmanitan. That was kind of the star of the show, was Sub-Select Darmanitan. We brought a physical Hydreigon to deal with Chansey if that was coming again. Donphin came in clutch this game, and I don't actually think Celesteela did anything that game, to be completely honest with you. I don't think Beedrill did anything either. Week 12, we played Mortal again, and we 6-0'd him. Celesteela picked up an Autotomized sweeping game, which was like the first time and the only time. I brought a really cool Espeon set, which was meant to deal with a Galvantula lead, and what else? Rockiyama Donphan came in clutch again. Bandit Azu's the same thing. Flying Name Z Celesteela. I didn't really bring a ton of offensive Celesteelas, and so I really loved this set and how it worked for me. Darmanitan was just really good with a Scarf set. Yeah, so then we made playoffs and we were top of our division because, as you can kind of understand from how we're going from this, we hadn't lost since week 2. So we ended up losing our first 2 matches, and then we won 10 in a row, which put us at 10-2. And so then in the playoffs, in the playoff quarterfinals, we played Daniel. Just because of how it worked, we were the Palette Division winners, which had been randomized to go against the wild card number 2 from the Johto region, which was Daniel, and we had a really close match here. He ended up almost beating me with a Z Sunny Day Gudra at the end of the game, and Hydreigon came in clutch there with a Specs Draco Major right at the end. Knowing that he wasn't AV, I was actually able to win. I was really scared that I wasn't going to do that. This is the first Metal Sound Celesteela that I brought, and it came in clutch. I brought a Toxic Banded Toxic Azumarill, and I actually really speed crept well with my Azumarill and my Celesteela. I crept over like no speed Mega Altaria with both of them, and it proved to be useful because the Altaria ended up being no speed. It was like a Cotton Guard Mega Altaria set. I know he likes to run screens, so I had double Brick Break on this team, and that was kind of that. Donphan putting the finance to work again. I don't know if Uxie did anything, to be completely honest. Excuse me, I can't remember exactly. In the semifinals, we ended up 6-0ing Muddy with our double trappers. We ended up bringing Paris Trap Azu again, Adamant Band, Darmanitan, Specs Espeon. This was going to be a really good girder set against his team, actually, and then we brought a trapping Mono Air / Celesteela set as well. So now I'm going to talk about the finals, and I'll sort of touch on how I built around his team. I had a few ideas going in. One of them came from Magic, I think, and it was Iron Fist. It was like Adamant, Banded Iron Fist Girder with Mach Punch, would Oko Mega Sharpedo, and I was sort of thinking about it a lot more, and Mega Sharpedo actually proved to not be a huge threat against my team, in my opinion, mostly because I didn't bring Uxie. Like, I didn't run double Psychic, so his Dark type wasn't super great against my team. I think I expected a few things that didn't come, and that was kind of unfortunate. I didn't prep super well for this game, to be completely honest, because what I should have done was gone back and look at the replay from our Week 2 match, because he ended up bringing Sash and Fernape in that match, as well as Scarf Coco, and the same Roar Avalugg set that he brought against me in the finals. So, bad prep on my part, and it ended up costing me the championship. I was still happy with second place. I still am happy with second place. I thought my Rabombi set was kind of neat with Webs and Sunspore. Getting a T-Spec up against this team was super good, so Banga Beedrill was good for that. I had a Wakanberry Celesteela to be able to tank a hit from a Tapu Koko and hit it back really hard. Excuse me. Banded Azu didn't do as much as I'd hoped. I should have clicked Aqua Jet on the Infernape. Z-Belch Hydreigon was, I thought, a pretty cool idea, and Scarfed Espeon was meant to be a revenge killer, but it ended up just not having the damage output, and he kept Mega Sharpedo alive, so I couldn't lock myself into Psychic without fearing that thing. So those were all the teams for the season. I'm happy with second, don't get me wrong. I think we played super well, and I'll show off the playoff bracket here. So, wildcard teams for Kanto were Cade and Magic in my division, and were CM and Daniel in the Johto Conference, and we got matched up against wildcard 2. Mudsdale, who was the winner of the Something division, the winner of the Newbark division, got matched up against wildcard 2. Matt was the winner of the Viridian division, got matched up against wildcard 1, and Nacho was the winner of the Cherry Grove division, got matched up against wildcard 1. So you always played an out-of-conference match in the beginning, and then it ended up not working out that way because Johto lost. It could have lost all of their games, and it could have been Kanto only, but Muddy ended up picking up a really clutch win against Magic and playing me in the semis, and these two sort of went how I expected. That was the third match between Nacho and Cade all season. I was kind of scared because they had both beaten each other, so that was kind of an interesting matchup. CM and Matt had already happened. Well, all these games had already happened, obviously, but that's sort of how they played out, and we go deep into the championship where Cade beat me and became the Season 1 champion. So that's the playoffs, and that's how it all played out. Let's take a look at kill leaders really quickly here. Sort of overview my kill leaders really quickly here, and then we'll talk about the league kill leaders and the league kill moves and stuff like that. And then I'll go over each of the teams individually. So everything highlighted in yellow here is from NCL. This is a really cool doc that I created. It's all of my mons that I've ever drafted, what leagues I've drafted them in, how many kills they have, how many deaths they have, how many games played they have. So just to see sort of how I've done with them, you'll note that Mimikyu, where's Mimikyu? Come on, there we go. I have 55 kills with Mimikyu and only 17 deaths in 25 games, so I'm not averaging a death a game, and I'm averaging 2.2 kills with it a game. So I'm kind of sad that I haven't drafted Mimikyu in a while, but that's, you know, you get what you pay for sometimes. This was our UPBA. This section here is our UPBA championship roster, and so that's sort of where we came at with that. These are only finished leagues, by the way, but I did draft Mimikyu 4 times, so that's sort of why it has so many kills. And then next best, I think, is Mega Houndoom here. No, it's not. It's Magearna with 34 kills. I drafted Magearna twice and picked up 34 kills in 2 leagues with it. That's absolutely insane. This thing is a monster. Yeah, just absolutely ridiculous that I drafted Mimikyu 4 times and it only came to 25 games. I drafted Magearna twice and it came to 23. Mega Houndoom, 17 kills in 17 games. Sorry, 19 kills in 17 games. That's pretty good, actually. Yeah, but this highlighted part, I highlighted this down here for the NCL. I drafted all new things, so this is the entire roster with our trades and everything. Sorry, with our moves from Tauros to Girder, and Lycanroc and Espeon are both on here as well because they both got game time. Uxie proving to be pretty utility focused with coming to 7 games and dying each time, but you know, that wasn't Uxie's focus in my opinion. Did it come to 7 games? I might have miscounted this. 1. Oh yeah, it didn't come to ending my 6-0. So yeah, that's actually true. Nope, whoops, that's not where I want to go. There we go. Donphan came to 10 games and got 10 kills. That's really good, and only died 5 times. Sorry, that was my phone on the floor there. Celesteela got 17 kills in 14 games. Absolutely insane. Definitely the MVP of the team. Mega Beedrill got 14 kills in 8 games. Really good. Mega Beedrill actually had the highest kills per game on the squad. Hydreigon had a ridiculous amount of kills at 8 and 4 in 9 games. So, you know, it had a 2 KD, which is basically pretty good. Same with Darmanitan, 6 kills in 3 games. Lycanroc-Dusk came to 3 games and died once and got a kill. Not super useful. Espeon actually showed up to 4 games, got 2 kills and 1 death. Girder showed up to 3 games and did nada. Rabombi came to 3 games and basically did nothing either. Rotom-Mow came to 4 games and was 2-0. I think that's pretty useful just as a utility sort of role. And Azumarill came to 12 games, got 11 kills. I think it probably could have had more, but it ended up being a really useful mon for the team, and I'm super happy about how it went. I'm done with this now, so we'll just move back over here. So we'll talk about the league kill leaders here. Mega Gardevoir absolutely demolished this league with plus 19 differential and 24 kills. Magic used Mega Gardevoir to the best of his ability, and he proved that it is not a mon to be trifled with. Especially on his team, he did really well. Sorry, I'm just going to drink some more water. Gated Mega Sharpedo. I'll just sort of highlight the top 10 here. Or maybe we'll move down a little bit further and sort of look at where our mons ended up on the kill board. But Mega Shark plus 13, 19 kills, again, monster. Volcarona and Mega Beedrill actually tied in the regular season with 11 kills each and a plus 9 differential. So this was your top 3, basically, was these 4 Pokemon. I know that doesn't make sense, but Mega Beedrill and Volcarona were both tied. Jirachi, again, from Matt. His Volcarona and Jirachi ended up being really good, both of his base 100s. +8 with 10 kills. Entei proving to be really good. TJ brought some Howl Entei sets, which was really neat, and he ended up going 13-5 with +8. Celesteela in the regular season, 13 kills +8. That's really good in my opinion. Regirock came out and I think was the surprise mon of the entire league, going 11-5 +6. Like Regirock, you don't expect it to be that offensive. Alolan Marowak came out swinging in one game and picked up a bunch of kills, and that's why it's this high. Tapu Koko was pretty consistent the entire season, ended up dying maybe a few too many times for 14 kills, but there you go. Donphan, 10 kills, 6 +6, I don't know. Aerodactyl was Jed's kill leader, and Melodic ended up getting 5 direct kills and 5 passive kills for a total of 10. Xurkitree, another 10 kills, so Nacho had some good offense here. Also, just leave it at Avalugg being at 16th is kind of interesting to me, and Matt having 3 in a row again. Lando down here. Lander's Therian actually I thought was going to be better than it was this season, just because Matt was using it, but his team is so good already that it didn't really matter. This is all sorted by differential, by the way, so that's why it's here. I had Hydreigon and Azumarill, only both were +2, that's Rotom-Mow again, +2, went 2-0 the entire season. Linoon didn't really do a whole lot, which I was not expecting. Darmanitan, 5-3 in the regular season, +2, again, not fantastic, but as you'll see in the top 30, let's just discount Darmanitan. In the top 30, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Pokemon in the top 30 in differential, which is pretty good. That's a little over half of our team. There was only one team that beat us in that, I believe, and that was Matt with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So Matt had one more Pokemon in the top 30, and that sort of goes to show why we were the top 2 teams in the entire league. We'll scroll down here and see the bottom of the barrel. Galvantula died every single time. It died 10 times, and that was how many games he brought it to, I think. Excadrill's still probably down here, even though Jed dropped it quite a while ago. Kieran Black ended up not performing super well. Where's Excadrill? Oh, there it is. There it is. There's Excadrill. We didn't have much down here, but Uxie ended up being -3. This doesn't really tell how good Uxie was for us on the team. I would 100% draft Uxie again. We'll move on to the moves now, I guess. Thunderbolt actually proving to be the highest kill leader. I only track these stats for the regular season because I feel like it's only fair to include all of the teams in this instead of having skewed numbers with playoffs where, you know, especially, not especially, but in a 12-team league, you know, you're discluding 4 teams worth of kills, and that's not really fair in my eyes. Earthquake not doing as well as I thought it would. Thunderbolt cleaning up a lot of stuff. Hyper Voice getting a lot of kills just because of Mega Gardevoir primarily. Moonblast close combat, like a lot of these extreme speed kind of shocked me a little bit. Hidden Power maybe should have been a little bit higher. Toxic getting 10 kills doesn't surprise me whatsoever. Where it gets fun is down in the Z moves. Continental Crush had 4 kills. Most of those are Regirock, if not all of them. Savage Spin Out, those are both Volcarona, I think. You know, ended up with 130 unique move kills in the regular season, which is kind of cool. Ended up being pretty cool. So let's run through Jed here real quick now then. Jed had a really cool team, ended up last place in the conference, even though he was 7-5 +5. That's really unfortunate. Cresselia did some work for him. Aerodactyl was basically his team's MVP in my opinion. Mega Pidgeot didn't do a whole lot, but it was kind of useful in the games that came. Salazzle was like his favorite, and it didn't show its worth in my opinion that much. For Austin, Kieran Black was basically the big mon on his team, and Salamence ended up coming in and doing reasonably well for him. Primeape actually ended up finishing positive, and I think it was the only positive finisher on the team. So good for Primeape. Who's next? Muddy played a stall team, and he had 4 FF games. 4 FF games. The yellow ones are all FFs, so I don't know what I can say about Muddy's team besides I let him draft stall, and I moved some of the prices up so that no one else can draft stall again that easily. Nacho picking up the team from Blade, I mean, solid on his part, honestly. I think he picked it up here. Week 6 is when he picked it up with a 5-0 win against Muddy. These first 5 weeks are all Blade. Megalodios basically did nothing in my opinion the entire season. I was expecting a lot more out of Megalodios considering Blade drafted in the first round. Tapu Bulu did nothing because in my opinion it's not a very good mon, and Nacho kind of realized that, I guess. Um, Araquanid was mostly there for webs and it didn't really do much for him. Nidoking and Xurkitree and Melodic ended up being kind of the stars of this team. Matt had some big stars on his team. He had a really balanced offensive team, and he had a really good defensive core on his team with the double intimidate core of Hitmontop and Lando. And then he ended up bringing defensive Jirachi a lot, along with Rotom-Mow, which was really cool. Alolan Persian ended up winning an award, and we'll sort of talk about that in a sec, but it ended up doing pretty well for him, winning 3 games. All the games that it came to. Kyurem, same deal. Rotom-Mow was probably the MVP of the team, coming in 9 games and he won all 9 of them, so that's really good for him. Cade, our eventual champion, Mega Shark, and Tapu Koko led the way on this team. Avalugg picking up 9 kills is just weird, and Fernape ended up being his playoff MVP, but Mega Shark and Tapu Koko being there was pretty clutch for him. Mortal ended up just not having a great season, but Mimikyu proved to be a menace. Despite him going 1-11 minus 36, Mimikyu still having a positive differential, or 0 differential out of that is really cool. He just didn't bring Durant, Lanturn, or Sceptile to any matches. Como only came to 1, so you can see that he sort of like mixed things up a little bit, and then he at the beginning he brought Metagross to a few games, and then he just went with the same team over and over again, and traded out Metagross for Farfetch'd. That was pretty much it. Me, Celesteela, Mega Beedrill, and Donphan made this really balanced offensively, and as you saw over here, Azumarill and Hydreigon actually contributed quite a bit to the offense as well. That's kind of it there. In the regular season, Rabombi came to 2 games. I won both games, but it didn't do anything. TJ had a weird offensive team with Entei and Regirock sort of carrying the load. Mega Manette had 4 passive kills. All of those were from Destiny Bond, so that's what you get there. Magic had basically Mega Gardevoir, and everything else was there to support Mega Gardevoir. End of that story. Daniel drafted Mono Dragon, and it was balanced, but not offensively or defensively because he just didn't have a great season. Kingdra proved to be sort of a bright spot for him. And last but not least, CM took over for Eco after this game right here. So this was CM's first game, was against Blade. And Mega Lopunny proved to be really good on this team. Again, I think dropping Alola and Sandslash from Machamp was not the best idea, although Machamp, came to 3 games and went 3-3. He didn't win a game with any of them. And I think that having a Hail Core, something that can outspeed a lot of stuff, would have been really useful for CM. So now we'll talk about the awards. There were a few different awards: Offensive MVP, Defensive MVP, 7th Man Award, Most Improved Coach, and Coach of the Season. For Offensive MVP, the winner ended up being... what was the winner? Let me check real quick here. Hall of Fame. Mega Gardevoir won Offensive MVP, to no surprise, basically. It topped the league for all of the weeks but 1, where it was tied for 2nd, I think, in week 1. But then it was top for the rest of them. So that is where we're at with that. I ended up nominating Jirachi and Aerodactyl for this, which neither of them got any votes. Big whoop. Defensive MVP, the winner, I believe, was Avalugg. Yeah, absolute monster defensively. I ended up nominating Melodic. Celesteela, I thought, was actually a really good nomination for this, and no one ended up voting for Celesteela, I don't think. Audino ended up proving to be a really good defensive mon for Magic as well. 7th Man Award was a Pokemon that didn't come to a whole lot of matches, but had a huge impact when it did come. This is one where I nominated Rotom-Mow because it ended up not coming to a ton of matches, but it was really good in the matches that it did come. Linoon was not that great in the matches that it did come, and Mega Pidgeot I had nominated as well, but Alolan Persian ended up winning this award, I believe. Alolan Persian ended up winning this award. I don't know, this was a hard one to judge and a hard one to vote for. Most Improved Coach, it was basically between Magic and Muddy, and Magic ended up winning it. Magic in the past has gone 0-10 in seasons, and he ended up making 9-3 and making the playoff quarterfinals. having a really close game against Mudsdale, and that was really good. I thought that was really good. And then Coach of the Season was won by Matt. Matt finished first overall in the entire season, and he made semifinals. I think that's really cool. I nominated Matt. A lot of people nominated Mortal as a joke, and Magic nominated Austin, I think, as a joke, because Austin just didn't have a good season, and that's kind of not the point of Coach of the Season. So it was really between Matt and nobody, because Nacho nominated me, and a lot of people didn't want to vote for me. But there you go. Just to keep it in perspective, I ended up placing higher than Matt did because of the side of the bracket that I was on. I arguably, well, not arguably, I definitely had the weaker side of the bracket, getting 2 Johto opponents, which was very obviously the weaker conference of the two, whereas Matt had to take on CM, which was actually one of the stronger opponents in Johto, and then he had to take on Cade, who was one of the stronger opponents in Kanto. So I don't argue with that at all. I think Matt was definitely the Coach of the Season, but I do think that I deserve a little bit of credit. Now I'm kind of tooting my own horn a bit at the end of this video, but that's sort of where we're at with that. So keep an eye out for NCL Season 2. We do have a really cool logo that I asked Jed to make, and Jed kindly made it, and it's a really sick logo, and I'm excited to use it, and I'm excited to get started with NCL Season 2 coming up in about a month. Again, tentative draft date. I don't remember if I talked about this at the beginning. It's been like 55 minutes of me talking, so I can't remember if I talked about this just at the beginning or if I talked about it in another video, but tentative draft date is June the 10th. We have a few new coaches joining us. We will have... I'm not sure if I want to actually talk about that, but I may or may not be creating a Twitter account for the league and sort of announcing coaches and announcing draft picks as they come out. We'll sort of see if that's how I want to do it. I'm not super sold on that. I'm not big into changing social media accounts all the time. I like having my own Twitter account open. But yeah, that's where we're at with that. So yeah, again, keep an eye out for NCL Season 2. Thanks so much to all of the coaches in Season 1 for making this a great season. I also want to thank Blade and Eco for spending some time in the league, and unfortunately, both of them had to leave for various reasons, but I would like to thank them for their time in the league, and I thought that it was fun having them around anyways. To all the coaches leaving us, which is TJ, CM, Muddy, and Mortal. We will miss you guys, and thank you again for participating in the season and having a great attitude the whole way through. Yeah, so we'll leave it at that, and I will see you guys for Season 2.